Straight Talk Podcast from the Retro Philosophy Show, where real talk meets real growth. Welcome to the Straight Talk Podcast from the Retro Philosophy Show, where real talk meets real growth.
Yes, indeed. What's up, everybody, including Lada Dada? You already know what it is. It's your boy Retro with you on tonight. This is the day, the night, the afternoon, whatever time it is you tune in. It's still the day that the Lord has made, and I will rejoice and be glad in it. Ladies and gentlemen, as we told you, it is Straight Talk the Podcast. We got a few things we want to talk to you about, so keep it locked and don't you dare touch that dial. As a matter of fact, no time like the present. Let's bring these brothers in, man. We got the one and only Dr. Jones and Dr. Edie in the building, and we're going to make it do what it do on tonight. Let's make some noise for these fine gentlemen. Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Just in case you would like to call in, the number is scrolling at the bottom of the screen. We'll leave it there for, I guess, the rest of the show. So you can phone call us, and if you'll call. I was gonna say we get a camera, but yeah. Anyway, let's start to my side. I don't know how this is gonna be, if it's my right or left, but let's start with Dr. Jones. Dr. Jones, how you doing this evening?
I'm doing well. So glad to be with you guys again, as always. I'm just appreciative to be on here. So proud of what my good cousin, big brother Sheldon is doing. I'm glad to be a part.
Oh, man. Man, look at me. We go way back, as James McCoy would say, like a Cadillac on full flats with the seats reclined all the way back, And so you mean so much to me, little cuz, man. I'm proud of you as well as you, David. David, how you doing, man? Welcome to the show, man. Talk to us real quick. What's going on with you?
Doing good. Glad to be back with both of you fine gentlemen for another Straight Talk episode. I really enjoyed these. I know we were joining a little bit earlier about having some long days, but something about getting together with you guys kind of helps to refresh and revive. And so I'm really looking forward to tonight's conversation.
Yeah, man. I'm happy, man. Glad to be here. Glad you guys. Hey, look, if you guys are watching, go ahead and hit the share button. David, me and Kelvin, we have a problem, man. We've been getting rained on today, and it's such an inconvenience, man. Just rain and 70 degrees and stuff like that. What's it like in your neck of the woods, man?
Listen,
oh,
we don't
boy.
want to talk about what's happening in my neck of the woods.
Okay.
Other than getting some extra days out of school.
Yeah. Look here, man. I'd rather go to school with 70 degrees than stay home with 5 degrees.
I'm with you on that.
Oh, boy. All right. So I guess we'll go ahead and hop right into it. Fathers, sons, and the leaders we become. Fathers, sons, and the leaders we become. Let's talk about it, man. Who wants to be the first to jump in there, man? What does it mean to when you hear such a statement? Yes, sir.
I think it's a powerful statement, and I think depending on what area you are at in life, it speaks something differently to you. Mm-hmm. I know, from the advantage point of a son, And looking at my father growing up and going through my formative years, you know, there's somewhat of a, for me, there was a perspective of the expectation of, we talk about like your dad's being like Superman and things of that nature, and things that you just expect them to be able to do.
Yeah.
And, crossing over and, as you become a father, and then as you see your son start to grow, there's the pride, and then there's the reality of your own diminishing that starts to take place. I remember the first time I had called David Jr.'s name and he replied, "Yes." And I was like, I wasn't ready for that. Like,
yeah,
like, wow, like that happened so quick. And, there's just so many, as you go on that journey, there's so many different things that you start to become aware of, your own, shortcomings, and, things that for me personally, you look back and say, oh man, I didn't do this yet, or I didn't accomplish this yet. And then it makes me reflect back on my relationship with my father and say, man, maybe I should have given him a little bit more grace in some areas.
That part, yeah. Yeah.
And sometimes I think it's good to have that reflection. And then lastly, I'll say when you mentioned the leaders that we become, I really like that aspect of it, because I found myself recently, becoming very much more, particularly with my oldest son, so much more, just like when I say instructional, like I'm going to pour into you, everything I can. And then there's the feeling of, are you listening to me? Are you hearing me?
Right.
And then I'm having to remember, like, well, when I was his age, I probably wouldn't hear me either. And I'm like saying to him, when I was your age, I wouldn't. And so it's an interesting experience to be in right now. But it's, I guess, a full circle moment.
Indeed. How about you, Jones?
So I have to say I have to emulate a lot of what Dave was saying. Truthful, Carter, one, he's almost as tall. He's getting to be almost as tall as I am. He's only 10, and his voice is it's not. And so just thinking about the fact with the statement, with the part of the topic that says, "And the leaders we become, leaders beget." So it's purposeful. It's a purposeful thing, and so I've been really trying to be purposeful in some of the things I do with Carter, with Kaylee, making sure that I'm dropping nuggets, and because I remember individuals telling me this and telling me that, and sometimes I didn't think I was listening, but I was listening. And so I try to just keep throwing it out there, knowing that sometimes it doesn't look like they're listening, but I know they are.
Right.
And so it's little things that I see them doing. It's key. And knowing that leaders aren't just born, they're developed. And so I'm working to make sure that they're going to be the leaders of tomorrow.
Okay. So leaders aren't just born, they're developed. Edie, would you agree 100% with that?
Yeah, I 100% agree with that.
Okay,
yeah.
Okay. All right, Kelvin, go ahead and elaborate a little bit as to why you stand 10 toes down on that statement. Leaders are not born; they're developed.
I would agree that we have some individuals that they have a tendency towards taking the forefront, but being in the forefront does not make you a leader. A good leader at that, I should say. Let me be more poignant. A good leader takes time and is cultivated, and that's one of the things. If I was to sit and gripe about things that I wish I had more time for cultivation in my youth. And so what I had to do was a lot of learning on the fly.
Okay.
And so what I'm trying to do is be purposeful with Carter, in that I believe that for him to be his best his best self, and be the leader that I know he can be, I'm trying to pull out those key skills and those key characteristics that are a part of him that will help him be the leader that he's supposed to be. So, what that looks like, I don't know, because I'm not trying to make him something he's not. I'm just trying to equip him to be someone he's just meant to be.
Okay.
And so,
I like that. Dave, anything you want to add to that?
Yeah, I agree with what Jones just said, and I just think that, and I agree that there are people that have, leadership traits and qualities that they may be born with, but I do believe that all of us, in some way or another, you either learn through learning what to do or learning what not to do, or life just teaches you. And when I think about, there's a book that we started reading this year called The Anxious Generation, and one of the things that the book mentions about how this generation, one of the things they're dealing with the higher level of anxiety, and a lot of it relates to the lessons that you learn just being outside without supervision.
Okay.
And I know we all can attest, because we all were those guys that was riding bikes around the city,
Yes, sir.
all over the place, and you learn street rules, and you kind of learn and see who becomes that leader out there. But there's also whoever's that leader out there. Guess what? Somebody else wants that, and there's a lot that comes along with that. And there are values and things that you learn that, whether it's somebody else, an adult, whether it's life, whether it's just the playground. There are so many different ways that I think that leadership is developed and just cultivated within a person's life. So yeah.
Yeah, I happen to believe that some of the most important things that we learn in life is not so much knowing what to do, but knowing what not to do. And a lot of that comes through the mistakes we make in life. The thing about mistakes is they cease to be mistakes once you learn from it. So, and there are so many people that they're so afraid of making mistakes that they remain paralyzed, and therefore they know what to do. But what about the situations when you need to know what not to do? So as fathers, because David, you are now, how old are you now?
I'm 44.
Whew, good Lord, I feel ancient. And so Jones, that makes you how old?
43.
Good Lord. And I'm just a few years older. So anyway, we'll just brush on by that, just a few years older, But, it amazes me because at some point, okay, I can remember I was about maybe 16, maybe 15, 16, right around there. And I hated my dad. And it's amazing because we go from that place where our fathers are our heroes. And then we get to a point in life where those same men that were once our heroes, now we see them as zeros. We despise them. We hate them. Did you guys go through that phase, or was I just a hellion or something like that? Did you guys go through that phase as well?
I definitely went through that phase where, I can remember, probably was in somewhere in that teenage range, where I just felt like this guy didn't know me.
Okay.
And I just felt like we were two different people.
Yeah.
And when, the times where he did, you guys know my father, he's not a person of very many words, but the times where he did say some things, I really, at the time, there were times I did listen to things that he said, because I didn't listen to anything, but there were other times where I felt like, he doesn't understand me, I'm younger, and, he's of a different generation.
Yeah.
It's interesting going through that. And, I just want to say this real quick. It's interesting being on the other side of that, and you don't recognize that, well, wait a minute. Cause in my mind, 44, but I still feel like I did. But then when I talk to, the younger people, they're like, you're an old guy. And I'm like,
right.
What are you talking about?
Yeah.
So yeah, I remember going through that phase, but now I also think and say, wow, like, it's interesting being on the other side of that as well.
How about you, Jones?
So, I'm a little different. Me and my dad, we've had a weird relationship.
Okay.
And so, I don't know. It's hard to put to words.
All right. Okay.
Hard to put to words. I lived in his shadow or tried to live up to him for many years. And so, I've shaped my life around him.
Let me ask you guys this.
It's hard to articulate.
I understand.
Yeah, But I'll say to say I've hated him. I won't say I've hated him.
Hmm.
I will say many days I was mad at him,
Okay.
very mad at him.
Okay.
But you know, so it's normal for a son.
Yeah, right. Now, for the record, once I got a little sense, let me just say something. Pastor Kelvin Jones, sister, I know it's first lady, but Sister Rashina Jones need to be set on the back seat for about at least 30 minutes because she's out here
Yes,
calling us old. So
I saw that.
yeah, you might want to chastise her. You might want to discipline her. Put her on the back seat for.
We're gonna have to rebuke that one right
Yeah,
there.
yeah, for about 30 minutes, at least 30 minutes, at least 30 minutes.
Open rebuke.
Okay, yeah. There we go. Yeah.
Or you can give her some private rebuke. Just saying.
That old David. There we go. So let's dive in here for a moment because I didn't like my father. I borderline hated my father right around 15, 16 years old. It was later on that and I don't know if you guys heard this story. I'm sure you probably have. So I won't, stay here too long. But nevertheless, my grandfather took sick, and my dad wanted to go see him naturally, and I wanted to go see my grandfather. And so I rode down with my dad to New Jersey to pick up my uncle, and then we left from New Jersey, and we rode all the way down to Warsaw, North Carolina. During that trip, I was able to sit in the back seat with my little brother and listen to my father and his little brother talk about everything and nothing and everything in between. What that did was it gave me a perspective of my dad that I was not yet acquainted with. A large part of me saw my father in some aspects through the lens of my mother. You know what I'm saying? And so, and that's a whole nother conversation for a whole nother show. But on this trip, I heard my father's heart. How often do we as young men hear our father's hearts?
Yeah, I think that's true. That's big. I don't want to interrupt your thought process, but
No, you're fine.
um, so being more transparent. I'm not one for much transparency. I
Mm-hmm.
get told that a lot, but so my dad, we were like in and out. He wasn't always. I didn't grow up with my dad in the house so much,
Mm-hmm.
but my mom always painted this like grandiose picture of my dad. He was this great guy with math. He was this great dresser. He was this great all around handy guy. And
Yeah.
so everything she said he was, I tried to become. We
Wow.
didn't have we didn't have these deep conversations.
Mm-hmm.
My mom and dad were like apart for like 30 years,
Mm-hmm.
and they just recently got back together.
Right.
And him coming down here, we've begun to regrow or develop a relationship.
That's good.
And as you were saying, driving in the car, we've
Mm-hmm.
had those kinds of conversations as of
Yeah.
late.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
so it's been interesting seeing him through a different light
Mm-hmm.
or hearing his
Mm-hmm.
thoughts differently, hearing it from him and not my mom's glossed over portrayal of him,
Mm-hmm.
seeing him
Mm-hmm.
more human.
Right.
Yeah.
I think it's important for us to see our fathers human.
Yeah.
And I don't think that we see that enough. When I was coming up, I didn't see that enough. My father would say things like, "Son, when you're older, you'll understand." He didn't really
Right.
take the time to explain things or break things down, and so it left me to have to try to figure it out on my own, to try to gain understanding from friends who didn't know any more that I knew, and et cetera, et cetera. And it's at the same time, I look, especially in retrospect, at where my father was, what he was going through, and in retrospect, you have a greater understanding, right? You know what I'm saying? Not to mention you got a level of experience as a father as well. And so if I knew then what I know now, I think I would have done a lot of things differently. I'm glad before my father left here, but let me just say it this way. My father and our relationship was repaired, mended, and it was great, man. And my only regret is that I lost those years hating a man that I should have been looking up to a whole lot more. So that's it in a nutshell.
I think
So
that's
go ahead.
I just wanted when you mentioned about hearing their perspective, I can remember there was one distinctive time, when I was talking to my father and he was in the car. We were sitting in the car, and you guys know how Norbert is.
Yeah.
It's like either he's not saying anything or he just all of a sudden will just start releasing everything.
Yeah.
And I can remember distinctly this conversation. He just kind of opens up and starts talking about his relationship with his father.
Okay.
And how his dad died when he was really young. And it was like it was the only time I can remember ever seeing him get choked up. And he talked about the experience of losing his dad and what everything had happened during that period of time, and then leaving Jamaica and then coming to America and not having that. And only thing he had mentioned after that was, with me, it was trying to figure out how to do the best you can. And from my perspective growing up, I never thought of it like that. I'm like, you're just, your dad, and you know all these things, right?
Right.
And so hearing him say that I was, basically trying to figure it out and doing the best I can, it did put some things in perspective, like, wow. And then, with that, again, even with raising my sons now, there are the times where you're like, you feel like, for me personally, at least, you're doing everything you know how to do, but then the realization that somewhere along the line, their perspective is going to be, one day, maybe the conversation, you said this one day that I'm like, or you did this, or you didn't do this. And that's the reality of parenting, that you do the best you can. And essentially, you pray and hope that your best, is good enough, and that one day you can have those conversations. But, hearing you talk about that, it kind of like just brought back that memory of hearing him kind of like, and maybe it happens as you get older in your years and you start to reflect, but hearing that, it changes you.
Yeah. 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 It's amazing. What is the most difficult thing for you, being a father to your sons?
So I'd have to say again, I grew up. My mom was the primary person in the house, right? She just was. Not that my dad wasn't around. We just didn't have that. We weren't that, you know.
Yeah.
And so I ended up having to go off the model of what I watched. So David might find this funny. I remember distinctly we were younger. I was over at David's house, and um, we didn't. I'm gonna preface my statement by saying we didn't get abused, but we got in trouble. And I distinctly remember Uncle Norbert saying that he would beat us so bad it would feel like our skin was burning off, or something to that effect.
Yeah.
He's Jamaican, y'all. He is Jamaican.
Never happened, but he put that fear in me.
Right.
I do, and it's things like that, little instances like that are sewn into you, right? And um, so I was talking to one of the kids, my kids, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so they was getting in trouble. And you know what I said? I said, "You keep it up, I'll beat you till you feel like the skin is going to burn off of you, right?"
Yeah.
Um, it's not something I do. I don't have to worry about that. But they
Right.
think that might happen, and so for all those watching, I don't abuse my children. I believe
Right.
in
Right.
discipline,
Yeah.
but they are not abused.
Right.
Um,
Right.
but but it's things like that, having to learn along the way from things deposited. Not saying that my dad never deposited anything. I'm not saying that, but I had to build some things and create some things and construct some things on my own. So raising Carter, I try to look at what I observed with others, or what I didn't feel I had, or what I wish I had, or things like that. I try to do all those things. I remember going into the sixth grade with questions.
Mm.
Carter's getting ready for the sixth grade. And so I reflect about some of the questions I had when I was going into sixth grade. Some of the things I wish someone had said to me when I was going into it's things like that that I find myself doing, constantly looking back in preparation for his forward.
Wow. Wow. Um, Let me hop over to JJ Aguilera real quick. Good brother out of the California area, United in Him Motorcycle Ministry. He said, so long I wanted a relationship with my real dad when the whole time God put Pops in my life, which is his stepdad, at the age of 9 years old. Took me over 30 years to realize and understand it. You know,
Wow.
yeah, wow, right? And trust me when I tell you, Pops is a solid dude, man. Oh my goodness, man, this guy, when he speaks, I don't know, he just got away, man. God has really blessed that brother, man. But some of us, Kelvin, you and I, our story is a little similar as it relates to, my dad. He was there, but he wasn't there. And I'm not even going to put the fault on him. That's neither here nor there. I think that both my mom and my dad, they did the best they could with what they had. And I'm grateful for both of them. My dad is no longer here. But he wasn't there full time, if you will. We weren't abandoned. We weren't forsaken or anything. But there are times when, we can't get what we need from our natural fathers, from our biological fathers, whether them not being there or whether they're just not able to give us what we need. We talked earlier about leaders being not born, but they're cultivated. And unfortunately, some of our fathers, the only type of leadership skill that they had could have been, restricted to a certain area. Whereas here you are, both of you guys are pastors now, right? Norbert wasn't a preacher, pastor, nor was your dad, Kelvin, right? So even if we look at it from that perspective, it's okay to see some of the things we need from other men. I was sharing this recently with someone as it relates to me and my son, Sheldon, Shaquan. And by the grace of God, I just had this understanding earlier in my, parenting, that the things that my son would need to be the man that I believe God was calling him to be could not come from me only. I think sometimes we do our children an injustice by closing them off to other influences. They used to say, right, it takes a village to raise a child. And I believe there's so many concepts to that are true. So you guys want to jump in on that? Any thoughts come to mind?
Yeah, I when I look back, starting when we were coming up, and it's interesting because, I'm sitting here thinking about how right now it feels like we are closer in age, even though you always going to be big cuz, but it feels like we're in closer in age than it felt like back then.
Mm-hmm.
So like, I remember when you first came in, and to us, you were like, I didn't realize how young you were until I started thinking back on it, and I was like,
right,
wow, like Sheldon came in young, but you came in and basically, took us under your wing,
mm-hmm.
and whether it's a shop,
took y'all underneath my feather.
Listen, your feather was a wing to us at that time.
It was a big feather.
Listen, I think, and you mentioned that, like, that was very pivotal in our formative years,
mm-hmm.
and to the point where we didn't even always recognize all of the things that you were dealing with and going through at that time, just in the process of kind of trailblazing some things. Like, we were just like, okay, we're going to service, boom, let's go.
Mm-hmm.
And, unbeknownst to us at that time, we were being drawn closer to both our relationship with God, because at that time, we were more connected to where you were, in a place where I probably wasn't as, connected to my natural father and things that he was doing. And what that says to me is that as a parent, like, I can't be insecure if my son builds a relationship with somebody that is, pouring that kind of, whatever it is into him, that's
mm-hmm.
helping him through those years. When I look at how it helped me, and then on the back end, I would say I started growing closer to my father after, I became an older, younger adult to older adult, where we're able to go back and talk about things and get his perspective. But during those years, those teenage in early 20 years, you needed that. And I think that's key to know that, not to try to, block that or become, again, insecure about that, but to know that I think in the life of everyone, it's good to have those other people that are there that you can trust and know that at least if you're not going to bring some things to me, which I know you're not going to bring everything to me, at least I know that you've got somebody that I know that is trusted that you can go to.
Yeah.
And I think that's key.
Jones, you had anything you wanted to add?
Yeah, I was going to say something along the same lines because, again, with my different background, it required the village, right? And so while I had my dad there, and my grandfather, who was like the epitome of everything. Like he was just amazing to me. James Otis Jones, he always is, here to me, right? But then there were individuals like you, Brother Terry, who I call Cousin T now.
Yeah.
Godfather, like a godfather to me. He's my godfather. I call him.
Yeah.
And so many others. Uncle Sam.
Yeah.
Various individuals came together. I try to, and I don't say this in a sinfully or a carnally way, but I'm very proud to be Kelvin Jones.
Absolutely.
I'm very proud of who I am as a Jones. I say that all the time to my son and to something we have. But to be me is seed sown from other individuals that didn't have my last name. Some weren't even related to me. It was because of their seed sown that helped me be who I am today. I remember Brother Guilford. Remember Brother Guilford?
Yeah, I remember him.
I was calling myself being fashionable. I came in the church one day, I had my tie, my suit on. My suit was buttoned and my hand was in my pocket.
Yeah.
He said, "No, whenever you wear your suit, if your pocket's button, your jacket's button, keep that hand out that pocket." It was small things. Small things that just helped influence who I was, helped influence who I am, I should say.
Yeah.
So if that's what it took for me, I've got to be man enough to understand that that's what it's going to take for my son. I have a well of things to give him, but if it stays with just me, I stunt his potential because it's all still through my perspective. It's all through my lens of viewing things, and he needs a broader perspective. And I think sometimes we as men, we become territorial, and this is mine, and we have to be careful because if we do that, we prevent them from becoming. I was going to be a little spiritual, a little churchy. In that,
That's cool. That's cool.
My mind has been shifting back to our previous conversations talking about Saul and David. And I feel like Saul was trying to place his flag in the life of David, and he didn't want others, and that's why he tried to put that armor on David as to claim him as his like his son, so that the glory would point back to Saul. Like, this is like my faux son, so he's from my house, he's from my lineage. This is still Saul, and I think that's the kind of thing that we try to do. We try to plant our flags and say, yes, this is Carter Jones, and so this is what I've brought, this is what I've produced. When in actuality, God produced Carter. He just allowed me to help lead him through where he's supposed to be coming.
I'm glad you say that the way you said it, Jones, because I am a firm believer that God made me who I was for my son and my daughter as well. But, and so I think sometimes we get stuck on us and we fail to understand that God has me here because he knew that my seed would come. And does that make any kind of sense? And so I think that there comes a time in our life where we've got to shift. We think our sons should respect us, and they should, and all that stuff. But we've got to realize that the way I deal with my children, is majorly important, because, oh boy, it's got to shift. It's not just about what I want or what I need, but about what my children need. What I've got to exemplify in front of them, the models, the all of that stuff. I was talking about something the Lord had laid this on my heart. It's been, I don't know, maybe several weeks, and it's simply the effort and the impact. How many? Well, let me just say it this way. My son was talking to me fairly recently about the old days, things that, how it impacted his life. And as he was talking about it, and it meant so much to him, and I couldn't help but think about the minimal or the minuscule effort that went into doing that. But yet still it had such a huge impact. And my father used to say all the time, if you put your mind to it, you can do it. And the reality is, in my mind, it sounds like he said it 1,000 times, over 1,000 times. But in reality, it may have just been just a few times. But the way it resonated, it seems like he just repeated it every single day. But in reality, he didn't repeat it every single day. The effort and the impact. Go ahead.
It's funny you say something like that. I remember when I was much younger, I was working on my penmanship because, if you know my mother, she was very big on penmanship. And so I remember working on my T's, right? My lowercase t. I worked on my T, and I thought it looked good. And I brought it to show my mom and dad. They were together at the time. And my dad says, "Ha, look it. He did it in 2 parts."
We lost you, Jones. We lost your audio, sir.
Can you hear me?
I can hear you now. Yes, sir.
He was looking at my T's, and he made a critique of my T's.
Okay.
When I brought it to him and told him, later I told him, that bothered me, right? He said, "I don't remember it. I don't remember it happening." And this later meaning, he said this when I was probably like 6 or 7. And I said it to him when I was like 10 or 11.
Yeah.
He didn't remember. But it was something that stuck with me so much, I went to perfect my T's because of his critique of that T. Because he critiqued that T. It's not that he said something nice. It's not that he said something necessarily mean. But his opinion about what I had done had so much weight that it affected what I did, even though it was a fleeting moment to him. It was permanently emboldened on my life to the point where I was very anal about how I wrote.
So let me ask you this. How does that compute in the life of Carter as it relates to you?
I'm big on Carter with his writing. He knows it.
No.
But that's a blend of the two. And your question connects that now. I'm very big on him about this.
Not the writing. But you see how Pop said something to you very small, but yet still it had that big impact on you. So here's the deal. I think, and I'm, Shaquan might be watching, and so I'm not saying that I got 100 in this department, but I do understand the importance of what we say, when we say what we say, and how we say what we say, when we say what we say. Does that make sense?
Yeah, most definitely.
Yeah.
So that's one of the things I'm very big on. I'm very big on, like, while I am big on his, like, for example, continuing the scenario of the writing, I'm very big on his writing, right? But I pose it in a way that is built up rather than laugh or tear down. It's just what I've learned that, for one more example, without him knowing he did it, my dad turned to Yolanda and told Yolanda, my sister, he said, "Oh, Yolanda, you've got a really good ear." And so I was there too. And I wanted to sing along, or I wanted to guess that song too, because he used to do this thing like guess the song.
Yeah.
And Yolanda's ear was better than mine. And so I wasn't included on the song and on the game.
Uh-huh.
So then I delved into music. Music was my
Okay.
thing because I wanted to show that I had a good ear too.
Mm.
It's the little things that you do or don't do that make an imprint. And so I try to be mindful of those things with my kids um, because I experienced it. Like I said, I live a life with my kids. I'm constantly live in retrospect of how certain things affected me or helped me, and I
Mm-hmm.
try to bring it forward to them.
Well, Silver Fox, your mother-in-law, says your penmanship is beautiful now. His comment pushed you toward better. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
How you doing, Sister Dina? Let's make some noise for the Silver Fox in the building. It's amazing because, and I'm not saying this about that situation per se, but not everything that's offensive needs to offend us. And, I think for us as boys trying to grow into young men, there's a part of us that just wants to please our fathers. Jump in, David. Were you like that growing up? Was there a part of you that just longed to please Norbert Edie?
So yeah, my father had a way of, in his mind, he thought he was encouraging you,
Mm-hmm.
and it oftentimes always sounded very critical.
Mm-hmm.
So, like an example would be if I brought home a B+, it was never, oh, good job. It was, why isn't it an A?
Mm-hmm.
And so for me, it's a catch-22, because while he was always saying, aim for the best, and in his mind pushing you towards achieving the best, there was a very real sense of never feeling good enough.
Mm.
And so for a long time, there were times when I just wanted him to say good job.
Wow.
I'm proud, or
Yeah.
and I think in his mind there was an element of just wanting to make sure that I wouldn't settle.
Mm-hmm.
And so it did, in a way, the goal was achieved, in the sense that I always try to like do the best, but then in another instance, I think I became even more hypercritical of myself.
Yeah.
And so even if something is good, it never really feels good enough. And so I've with that, like, and me and him, we've talked about that, and and since I've been older, and he shared what his philosophy was and what he was aiming to do. And so, like, even when I'm talking to my sons, I try to, how can I strike that balance of letting them know that I see your potential, and I don't want you to settle or strive for less than what you're capable of,
Mm-hmm.
and at the same time still push them, and still let them know that I am, I'm proud of where they are. And so I see it as learning from what my speaking personally, learning from what he did, applying
Mm-hmm.
what he did, and for lack of better words, hopefully, I think as we go on, I'm starting to see that the goal is that in each successive generation, we can leave something better of ourselves. So if I can help show my sons the best of what my father had to offer, and hopefully the best of what I can offer, and hopefully one day, when they have sons, they can do that as well. We can continue to promote, that ability to really grow and heal. And I think one of the things that with me personally is I try to be more conversational.
Okay.
I try to, growing up, there really wasn't any conversation as far as like I'm
Correct.
going to explain myself.
Right.
Like it was when I said something, that was it.
That's it. That's it.
And again, this is actually a conversation I had very recently with my father. And he was saying that he didn't realize some of the things that I was doing when I was growing up. And he said, well, in Jamaican culture, he said, you didn't really talk to your kid like that. It was, this is what I said, this is what you do. And he said it wasn't that he wasn't interested in what I was doing, but like we're talking about, just like girlfriends and all that kind of stuff. And he said, you didn't have no conversation like that with your parent in our culture. It was,
Right.
you just didn't do it. And here I am, with David Jr. and Dawson, and I'm being way more explanatory and sharing of my own, experiences and shortcomings, and, telling them like, listen, I'm not perfect. Every decision that I make might not be the best one, but I'm gonna give you the best that I have. And that might mean that I seen Lady Jones just shared a minute ago about apologizing.
Yeah.
And that might mean that I walk into the room and say, hey guys, I'm sorry. I was a little excessive. I wasn't having a good day, whatever it is. I shouldn't take that on you. And I think those are the lessons that I start to pick up and learn and hopefully pass down.
It's important because, again, we have to be that example. And I think that the father, a lot of men, they like to say, I'm the head of the household and this and that. I'm the head and, blah, blah, blah. And yeah, you are. But that also means that, there's a greater responsibility that you have. We've got to teach these children even how to be at one with their emotions. We were talking the other day about emotional intelligence. And I think that needs to be taught at home. You know what I'm saying? If you lose your cool, like you said, David, and Sheena had said a while ago, apologize to the children. Let them know, you know what, Pops didn't make the best decision. I'm sorry, my bad. However you want to word it, just let them know that, number one, you made a mistake. You're acknowledging it, and it's okay if you make a mistake, especially if you handle it the right way. Since we're talking about emotional intelligence, what comes to mind when you hear that word, Jones?
So I think, especially growing up the way we grew up, where I grew up, men were, we didn't get into all of that. We weren't showing emotions. Wipe your face. It was we weren't given that grace to be
Right.
emotional, because if you were being emotional, you weren't being manly. You weren't masculine. And so one of the things I tried to show my son, to show my daughter even, is how to be uh, I don't hide being angry.
Mm-hmm.
I just try to control how I show that anger.
Right.
I don't hide being sad. I don't hide when I'm sick or hurt. I let them see all those aspects of me. I let them see me. If daddy's hurt, tell them why. Then I let them see me get up. I let them see me push through. I let them see me work through it. I let
Mm-hmm.
them see all these things, have my low moments and have my high moments, and sometimes deliberate through them, because I want them to understand all of this is okay,
Mm-hmm.
not just some of it. This isn't, tears crying is not just for Kaylee, it's for Carter too.
Mm-hmm.
I tell each of them at least 5 times a day, Daddy loves you, right? And I give him a hug. And it doesn't matter that he's about my hot size anymore. You know, Daddy still loves you. The
Yeah.
other day I had to try to pick him up. I almost hurt my back.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
He's a big boy. But I want him to understand that, my love for you doesn't change because you've gotten bigger. I don't
Right.
treat you funny now and give all the love just to your sister. I try to
Mm-hmm.
make sure it's balanced.
Okay. All right. When do, because I do believe that as our children mature, things do need to shift. So we're not leaving that out, are we?
Oh, most definitely. I think that as they mature, they experience new emotions. And so they can be mad, right? Just be
Mm-hmm.
respectful with it. And so there was a time when um, No, they still not there yet. No, but thinking of voice, so I was brought up to voice my opinion. So in Belinda Jones's house, we were
Yeah.
encouraged early to have a voice.
Mm-hmm.
Problem was she wasn't aware of how intelligent her son was, and
Mm-hmm.
so she didn't like. It got to a point where she didn't like the voice that she afforded me to have,
She didn't like
and
the
so
little
I had an
monster she
unrestrained
created.
voice. Yeah,
Yeah, yeah,
uh,
yeah, yeah.
I had an unrestrained voice when I was 5.
Uh-huh.
But then when I became 12 and 13, that unrestrained voice now was calling out some of the inadequacies or the issues that I was seeing, and it wasn't liked anymore.
Right, right,
And
right.
now those questions are disrespectful. How dare, da 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 da,
Yeah.
stuff like that. And so I try to just control but still give that open voice, control certain things, but still give space for you to grow and become. I can't expect him to be the leader I want him to be while silencing his voice.
There
I
you
can't
go.
expect him to grow
Yeah.
and to become all that he's supposed to become by stunting his emotional expressions. And
Mm-hmm.
so when he wanted to walk through the house and he 1 second was a dinosaur, I let him
Mm-hmm.
be the dinosaur as long as he understood um, the other things. Now that he's older, he doesn't try to be a dinosaur
Okay,
anymore.
okay,
Now
okay,
he's
okay.
now he's a caveman. He stays in his room a lot of times, right?
Yeah, yeah,
But I remember being that person, being
yeah.
in my room by myself. So now, every once in a while, I just go in and I check. Are you okay? Are you sure? Do you know that the house is open to you? You're loved, and I go through all these little steps to make sure you're not in here because you feel isolated. But this
And
is just your safe space, and it's okay to have your safe space
and
as
at the
long
end
as
of
you
the
know.
day, that's your child. And you know your child better than anybody else. You know what I'm saying? So, you can't raise your family the way somebody else raised theirs, because every family's gonna be different. You know what I'm saying? Edie, what you got to say, sir?
Yeah, I agree, and I think especially as look as they get older, really starting to adjust and shift. The approach. I actually had this conversation with Elder Troy Smith just not too long ago. We are talking about our sons and kind of going back and forth, which I think is one of the things that's really helpful is talking to other fathers.
Mm-hmm.
And I just want to throw that out there that especially when I'm gonna come back to the point, but a lot of times society will make fathers feel like they're in it almost by themselves, like
Mm-hmm.
they're not allowed. But there are other fathers out here who are going through things, and if you can find a community, whether it's in your church or your neighborhood or school, whatever it is, having other fathers that can look at certain things and say, hey, why don't you try looking at it this way? That helps out a lot.
Absolutely.
And as David was getting older, David Jr. was getting older, I was starting to notice just the normal things that comes along with the testosterone starting to come along. And so I'm like, all right, and again, my father's position was essentially he had the strength.
Mm-hmm.
So with him it was like, don't say nothing else or else.
Mm-hmm.
And for the longest time, even as I was older, I wouldn't say anything, but I noticed that there were feelings that were pent up, that even though it may come across as respect, and I'm not saying that this was his intention, but the reality is that a lot of times it was just, I was afraid to say something.
Mm-hmm.
And you end up carrying those things. And so what I try to do now is, like, if I notice, like, if I need to address something and I can see the demeanor change, I can see the attitude coming along, I'm like, all right, son, we need to talk. And I try to talk to him in a more conversational man to man. Like, you can, if you're upset, you can voice your feelings to me, but I want you to do it respectfully. So I know initially it was like that. Yeah, right. I ain't falling into that trap. Like, you trying to set me up.
Right.
And I realized, and honestly through talking to India as well, because he would go talk to India, and I'd be like, I just talked to that joker, he didn't say nothing. And then I realized that I did have to, I had to earn his trust of knowing that if I talk to him, that he's not gonna, because I had to acknowledge to myself that there were times where I'm like, okay, I'm not gonna get mad. He say something, and I could feel it coming up in my chest. And I'm like, all right, I'm about to. So I realized that, you know what? Okay, this is not an era where I can necessarily strong arm it. You know, I need to earn that trust where, hey, we can talk. You can share your feelings respectfully, and we can discuss where we're at and what needs to happen. And those are some of the approaches. I'd be lying if I said I'm perfect at it.
Right.
I'm still trying to develop that, and I'm appreciative of the advice and support, because, you know, you're looking, as I'm looking at it now, you know, my youngest son, he'll be 9 tomorrow.
Wow.
And David is, you know, like I said, he'll be 15 this year, and it's just, I'm learning that parenting changes in each stage that they're going through.
Absolutely.
And the way that I would, you know, necessarily, like when David was little, it was different than where he is now, and I have to adjust. And I think, you know, at first it was like, you know, I'm the father, why I don't have to change. But now I'm like, no, I do have to adjust.
Yeah.
I have to adjust to the reality of him growing. And it's difficult, it's challenging. And I'll be frank, it's easier to do theological stuff, apologetic stuff, church stuff. It's easier to go deep into that, but having those conversations causes me to have to confront where I am. And you mentioned emotional intelligence. That means I also have to confront my own emotions.
Correct.
So again, like if he does something and I get upset, I found myself asking myself the question, you know, well, why am I upset? Is this because of him? Did he actually do something that warrants me being upset? Or is that something I need to look at and address within me? And, you know, I think it can be challenging to do that. I see Lady McGyver mentioned earlier about being the head comes with those responsibilities.
Yes, sir.
Because you have to say that just because I'm the head doesn't give me the right to not confront my own emotions and where those emotions are coming from, and making sure that I'm actually fathering and leading in this home from a healthy place, and not a place of, you know, the things that I've just been holding on to. And it's a challenge. I think it's also something for me personally that has also changed my relationship with God.
Okay.
In a very real way, learning and going through this and really seeing, okay, wow, this is how God is with us. Like when I messed up, he didn't just, you know, just jump on me and start wearing me out. He lovingly corrected me. He lovingly, brought me back into a place of where I needed to be. And all of those things are starting to really inform not just me as a father, but me as a person as well. And that's what I take from that emotional intelligence.
Powerful indeed. Look at, man, this thing here called parenting, man, it's not easy. We don't have, let's see here, what's going on here. Can you guys hear me good?
I can hear you.
Okay, perfect. Okay. We don't have all the answers to this thing called, parenting. But one thing I found out, number one, kids are resilient. They'll be all right. You don't have to be a perfect parent, but you got to show up. You got to show up, even if you're showing up from a distance. JJ, I thought it was kind of funny. Let me see if I can find his comment. He says, my daughter called me bipolar because I lost my cool and had to go in her room and apologize. And I acknowledged I was wrong, but you know what? Look, bipolar or not, he showed up. He owned what he needed to own. And, I just don't think we have the right to pass the buck. Like, my wife said, you are the head, but it does come with responsibility. And when you are the head, you don't have the luxury of, pointing the blame, because every time you point the finger, whatever you point the finger to, you give the power to. So I'm just saying.
That's it.
Yeah. Jones, you got something you want to say?
So I think that one of the things you were saying, that in itself is very good. I try to my best to be very mindful. I find myself being my own. While we all need to talk to somebody, I find myself being my own therapist, trying to figure out why I respond to certain situations the way I do,
Mm-hmm.
why I feel this way. Is it because of this, or is it right? Because I think during this, as I hate to use the word generation, but during this age, I try to find. I know as a teacher, I get to see other people's children a lot,
Okay.
and so it gives me a perspective of what some things that I love, and then some things that I don't like. And so one of the things that I've learned, this generation, a lot of them don't understand what respect is,
Mm-hmm.
and
True
we
indeed.
grew up learning respect. So how do
Right.
you instill the inspect and the respect and the morals that we learned without being so overarching and so, harsh? Because sometimes we learn hard. We would get popped for what you look at me in the mouth for, just stuff like
Yeah, 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 yeah.
Yeah.
how do you teach that level of respect without being too over too much?
Mm,
And so I find myself trying to walk that fine line, trying
mm-hmm.
to be that. Well, I'm not that. I don't want to paint a false picture. I'm not this perfect dad who is getting it right.
Mm-hmm.
I yell and have to go back and get it fixed. Fix it.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
I'm wrong and have to go back and apologize frequently. But I think that's a part of them seeing that it's okay to be wrong.
It's also a
Um,
part of relationship.
Right.
yes.
Yeah.
Uh, One thing I noticed was Kaylee was emulating me. I was yelling too much, right? I was yelling too much. And so she's starting to yell at everything. Carter, cut this out. She's yelling because daddy was yelling too much. And so
Yeah.
that kind of like on my actions. And I said, I have to do a little better. Still working on it, right? But I'm a loudspeaker when it comes to certain things.
Yeah, you are. You got that strong voice too, boy. I tell you, good Lord. I was gonna say something, but I'm gonna be good. I'm gonna be good. I'm gonna be good. I'm gonna be good. I want to say this because both of you guys are in the education field. You guys might know where I was going to go with that, but you guys are both in the education field. So talk to me a little bit about that because you just dropped a bombshell on Jones. You said you could see other people's children and things of that nature. So are you guys able to glean from those kids, good and bad, and how do you extract certain wisdoms and things of that nature to better your family?
Yeah. It's honestly one of the things that one of the things I noticed the most about being in the field is
Mm-hmm.
the necessity of the male presence in a child's life.
Mm-hmm.
And it sometimes it's biological dad, sometimes it's uncle, sometimes it's stepdad, whatever it may be. But and sometimes, and I don't mean this arrogantly, and sometimes it's me. Sometimes, it's you're talking to kids and I can't tell you the amount of times, they come in and the expectation is do schoolwork. And whatever the child is going through has them so emotionally dysregulated that schoolwork is not a possibility in this moment.
Mm-hmm.
And I could say that, my job is make sure you get the schoolwork done. I'm not your mommy, I'm not your daddy, whatever.
Mm-hmm.
And sometimes in those moments, and seeing a child just kind of like, I just need somebody to be there. I need a place to feel safe. This behavior that's going on that I'm doing that is inconveniencing your day is because this is the only place where I can feel like I can let this out. And so in a very real sense, there have been times when I've actually, you talking about challenging your own upbringing, because like for me growing up, if you was throwing a tantrum, you going, but to allow a kid to sit back and see them let out all this frustration and then be able to talk to them afterwards and hear the meaning behind it and realize that there are some of these children are in spaces where it actually does reveal to you that even through some of the, looking back and say, oh, I could have complained about this or didn't have that or whatever. Some situations will have you just humbled and grateful for where you are.
Yeah.
And the opportunity to speak to some of these kids and see changes. There are times, and I'll say this now and I'll be done. There'll be times when I'll see just a small change in a child that may seem insignificant, but when you, or if you knew where this child started, it's like a huge milestone. And one of the things that did for me is to really, number one, when I look at my children as well, to really kind of extend the grace of, not having, I want to have a great expectation for them, but I don't want to be overbearing with those expectations to where that the milestones that they are achieving, whether small or seemingly big, they're great, and to celebrate that. Yeah. And literally seeing that change in a child and seeing them be able to realize that, you know what, so it's possible that I can learn something that again might just take so it's possible that I can know how to read. And it's like, wow, yes. And literally hear kids say, I've never had anybody say that to me before. Man. And that's it. Those are powerful moments, and the job can be stressful to say the least, but at the same time, there are moments like that where you realize that being able to both grow from being in contact with these kids and being a part of their lives, and also pour into them is deeply meaningful.
I want to get to Jones, but I want you to, because again, fathers, sons, and the leaders we become. So I want to get to the leadership part. We'll get to that in a moment. So just kind of keep that train of thought there, David. But that was really good, man. Rashina posted, she said, these kids need compassion, and they really do. I couldn't agree more. Jones, you want to hop in there, sir, and elaborate?
Yeah, so I would agree. Of course. I've been teaching for a number of years now, and I kind of always try to put myself into the scenario of what's going on with my students. I have two kids, God bless me with, Carter and Kaylee, biologically, but I have hundreds of kids throughout the city of Montgomery uh, that I call my children. One of the first things I tell them when they come into my classroom is, "You are now my kids, right? You're now my students. You're now my children. I treat you like my children." And it wasn't always like that. It was something I had to learn. I learned it though, um, because without getting into the intricacies of what some of them are going through,
Right.
uh, I've seen some children dealing with some things that, they say, "Oh yeah, they're kids. They're not going through anything." Some of these children are going through things that we've never experienced in our lives.
Wow.
I had one child come to me and tell me that, they had dirt floors, dirt floors, dirt floors.
Wow.
The floors were made of dirt, and that, like, so I had to receive that information and not
Wow.
look condescending. I had
Right.
to
Right. Right.
receive that information and not like, offend them and
Mm-hmm.
address where they were. I had to talk with students that have had all kinds of life issues. Uh, and it's just it's a learning, something you learn helps you be appreciative. So I also work with a lot of high school students. So I'm learning from them what they don't like and what they do like, and it's reminding me of what I didn't like. And it's teaching me how to be more gracious. I had a student the other day who had we were in class and there was an issue that went on, and they had a moment, and in the classroom or frustration, right?
Mm-hmm.
Their frustration, if I had had that frustration, I would have got popped in the mouth.
Yeah.
Um, but you know what I said? I said, come on, let's go in the hallway. And they dropped to the floor. I'm in a suit.
Mm-hmm.
But I dropped to the floor with them because at the end of the day, they need us where they are.
Wow.
And so I got down where she was at, where they were
Mm-hmm.
at, and we had a whole conversation.
Yeah.
And sometimes they just want to see that someone's consistent. Some of the best thing you could do is be consistent,
Mm-hmm.
consistent with the child where they are. They
Yeah.
don't need someone that is barking orders. They don't need someone that is fussing. That doesn't make you the parent figure. Sometimes being
Right.
consistent, they know, they call me Dr. Jones. So they know they can expect consistency from me. And some of them call me their school dad, and they come to me with their issues and they come to me with their likes. Um, Dr. Jones, I have a boyfriend now. Oh, and so I'm having this talk early, and they say, "Oh, that's just like what my dad said." You know, we have I have relationships that I build with them, and you learn and you
Mm-hmm.
build, you garner from their achievements. I have students that are gone on now into careers, and
Mm-hmm.
they're messaging me, and they're doing great
That's
things.
awesome.
And I have some that are in college now, and they're calling me back and messaging me. It's those things, those little seeds that they're sowing back. It gives me it inspires me for the students that are coming, but
Mm-hmm.
also excites me for where Carter and Kaylee are going to go.
Wow.
So I try to see what they're doing, remind me of what I could have done, and then use that to help me with how I, deal with my children. To the fact of, so um, this whole 6-7 thing, right? And I'm not getting into with
Oh
some say it's
Lord.
spirituality and all that stuff,
Mm-hmm.
but the kids eat it up. They find a way to say 6-7, and they're doing this six
Oh my goodness.
seven, and they're doing all this, right? And so
Oh my
I
God.
would turn around, and I'm going to find. I'm a math teacher, so I
Yeah.
can find a way to say 6-7 and make your arms burn. I'm going to do that, and you don't even know I'm doing it, to the point where I'm going to have you tired of saying that in my classroom.
Yeah.
And just but I learned a lot of the new trends. I learned new trends, new sayings, new doings, new all this stuff to keep me. They try to keep me abreast of the new TikToks and the new TikTok dances and all these
Yeah.
things that I wouldn't have got because my parents weren't doing the dances. They weren't doing these things, but I'm doing it with them, and or maybe not so much well, but I'm learning them, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
And so then I come home and act like I knew about it already.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
my answer is, oh, because I'm dad.
Yeah. Yeah.
I
Yeah.
have to,
It's super
I learn.
dad. It's super dad. Super dad. It's a beautiful thing, man. Fathers, sons, and the leaders we become. What was the most impactful thing for you to become the leader that you are today?
Man, they're so I don't even know if I can say the most. There's so many things that I can point through in my life. The people that have come in, the people that have gone out.
Mm-hmm.
Honestly, I don't want to sound cliche, but the things that hurt, the things that left you reeling.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I think those things, while obviously, if I can not go through this, absolutely, but I think being put into vulnerable places,
Mm-hmm.
where you're being a leader. I think there's always going to be an aspect of being exposed, and you have to be willing to stay in that place when you want to run and hide and just kind of crawl under a rock. If I was to ask you to, I can almost guarantee you that both of you would say that there have been times that you thought about shutting down all of your social media, getting off everything, finding a
Mm-hmm.
little space to go hide out at, and just
Yeah.
be off the grid and don't want to talk to see nobody, but something inside of you pulls you back to it, not because of necessarily the quote unquote benefits of it. It's even though there are all of those things that happen, it's the the thought process of thinking about the times that somebody showed up and spoke into you. And you mentioned earlier, Sheldon, about the minimal things. And sometimes it's the minimal things, like it's, the time I was, getting ready to, fall apart, and Bishop Tyson gets on the elevator and just looks at me and says, "How are you doing?" And I said, "I'm doing good." And he said, "I'm praying for you, and I'm here for you." And I was like, "Wow." And that was it. And out of all of the moments, that was like the moment that in that specific moment, where I can remember feeling like my whole world was falling apart. And he didn't say a whole lot other than, "I'm here for you." And that was all I needed to hear. And so for me, it's even in the moments where it's like, the thought of walking away, or, just going somewhere where you can just, be unknown, showing back up for somebody, whether it's at the school, whether it's at the church, whether it's for my own kids or family, those moments become impactful because it doesn't have to take a whole lot for you to show up and just say, you don't know. You may not, do it big like how society paints it. But maybe somebody hears one thing that you said and that gets them through. Maybe that one student, they remember, hey, there was that bald black dude, that one teacher, he stayed on me. Maybe that, and those are the moments that I think when I look back over my life, it wasn't just one moment. It's all of those little tiny moments that really became so impactful over time.
That's good. That's good. Jones, how about you, sir?
Yeah, I hate to say this again, but I can't help but agree with Dave. One thing that's always stuck with me, I said his name earlier and I'll say it again. Cousin Sam, who we affectionately call Uncle Sam, Sam Brown. I remember being 12 in his Sunday school class, and we were sitting there, and had a Sunday school lesson. He happened to be my Sunday school teacher as well, and he was talking about the power of names that they gave to people back in the day. It's not like we give names now.
Right.
And he turned to me and he said, "If I were to give you a name," he said, "I call you Arnold." And I was like, "Arnold?" And he said, "I call you Arnold because I see you as strong." Right? That is something that has like stuck with me forever. One of the things, not too long ago, I would found myself very frustrated, very frustrated, and I was about in my down and outs. This is what it was. I had a health scare. I had some things going on here, there, and everywhere, and it was like he was speaking to me now from back then. He
Wow.
said, "I see you as Arnold because you're strong," and it's not because I was so in the moment and this and that, because I was not, right. But it was that came back and spoke. And then I'm walking down the street and someone says, "Hey, hey," and I'm like, "Hey." I mind my business because I'm not from Montgomery. So usually when
Right.
someone said, "Hey," in my mind, they're not talking to me. And they said, "Guy with the beard." And I said, "Uh-oh." They said, "It's Monday. It's Mini Message Monday." Oh, wow. Look at that. Right?
Yeah, that's dope.
That's what's
it's
up.
little things like that that build you up. You
Yeah.
don't think that you're having the impact that you are. And he doesn't know how, God rest, doesn't know the impact that he had on me. Cousin Sam did. But then
Wow.
that person who was walking down the street, well, they were walking from the store, didn't know how much I needed to hear that in that moment. Someone else texted me. It's just these little things.
Yeah.
So, I'm grateful to be a leader in the classroom, leader in church, and leader in the family, leader all these other places. But, you're a leader in all those places, it depletes you in all those places. And sometimes people don't recognize you need a little uplift,
Yeah,
and you don't
absolutely.
recognize necessarily all the positive impact that you're also always having. And so sometimes you go unnoticed on what you're doing. So hearing someone just, you know, recognize it sometimes is just an uplift. So to say where I was just in one moment here or there, I can't really call it.
Hmm.
Well, I could, but it would be too much.
Yeah.
Um, I just say it's a lot of little moments
Well,
that have caused me to be happy on what I've been able to do.
we are definitely going to pick back up. I want our next podcast. We're going to start out with the leaders we become, because there's so many different aspects that needs to be looked at. Because as you said, there's so many different things that help, make us the leaders that we are. Some of them good, some of them bad, some of them we knew, some of them we didn't know. And so, because, sometimes things just seem to be thrown up in the air and then they just happen to fall down magically in all the right places. There's a lot of things that I've done and accomplished in life that I can't even really tell you exactly what I did for it to work the way that it did, other than just trust God, and even when I was trusting God, it was iffy then, if I just be real. I want to say this as we get ready to transition. I think one of the most important things that all men need is to simply be seen. And I think you, David, you kind of spoke about that when Bishop Tyson comes in the elevator and essentially he saw you. And so if I could challenge anyone, or if I could give anybody that's watching, listening, a homework assignment, it would simply be to look back and let folks know when they've impacted you in any kind of a way, no matter how small or how big. Reach out and let folks know, Kelvin, you were my teacher for 2 years and you really helped me get through this. David, I'm sorry I stepped on your toe. But through that whole process, I found out that, and we've got to look back, man, because the Sam Browns, the Sam Basses, the brother McCoys, the brother Rosemans, the brother Washingtons, the brother Edie's and Norbert Edie, and the list goes on and on and on. A lot of these guys, man, they at some point was just saying to themselves, I'm sure, what's the use? And I remember I sat down with Norbert and I told Norbert how he impacted my life, on so many different levels. I can swing a hammer today because of Norbert Edie. Real story, true story, and I just think that it's important that we learn to intentionally, and even strategically, Kelvin Dumpson, there's so many, and again, minimal effort can have maximum impact, and I'm gonna leave it at that. You
Can I
guys
say
have
something?
anything? Yeah, absolutely. Please, by all means.
I didn't want to cut you off, but when you mentioned that, it just something that came to my mind. You mentioned about swinging the hammer, and it was amazing to me because, I always used to wonder like how my father can do some of the stuff he can do, like with building, and I don't think he always saw the value of what his gift was, and what he was able to do for various reasons. That would be a whole nother conversation. But when you mentioned sharing that with a person,
Yeah.
I can remember having conversations with him, and he literally would be like, why would you think, or why he would not think that people would see him in a certain type of way, or that this was like, dude, like you guys have had this conversation with him before too. Like, man, you could be doing this, you could have this, and he never really saw himself the way that some of us were looking at him in that regard. And I think in that it's so important who you have that pours into you, and says and speaks into you, and says, what you have, and so that you can see the things that you can do that you might take for granted and think that, well, I don't think this is a great thing. I can just swing this hammer. Yeah, but you don't understand.
Right.
with this this is like a jawbone in Samson's hand. Anybody can swing a jawbone, but Samson with a jawbone.
That's a different story. Yeah.
And
yeah.
I think that, and I know this will be for another conversation, but I think that's where, and you, especially when it comes to the leaders that we become, when we talk about, the ministries that we're a part of, how are they sowing into us and what our gifts are, not just for what we can do with them, but the impact that our gifts have, the weight that our gifts have, the anointing that's there that goes beyond just.
I'm sorry to put that up there where you was making such a good, positive, strong, deep point. I'm sorry. I just happened to hit it.
I see that late.
But was that not hilarious, man? I mean, I don't even know. I gotta call Shaquan, man. I gotta call him.
I'm saying it too.
Yeah. Yeah. Hilarious.
Yo, that
Hilarious, man. But we were so young and full of potential. God's hand was on us in ways, good Lord, that I guess we're starting to understand now. David, you were talking about Norbert not really understanding the value. In life, unfortunately, there are two types of people: pitchers and switchers. You know what I mean by that? Pitchers and switchers. There are the switchers. They're there to turn the switch to take everything they can get from you. And then there are pitchers. Those are the ones that are pouring back into you. You understand what I'm saying? And when people don't value you, all they want to do is just turn the switch and get what they can. But when they value you, they understand he's running a little low. Let me pour back into him because I need him to continue to produce. Because what he has is important. What he has is valuable. And so I'm not going to let him run dry, but I'm going to be a pitcher in some shape, form, or fashion. I'm going to pour back into him. I might not be able to buy Norbert a hammer, but I can say, Norbert, I sure do appreciate this doghouse you building. There's so many ways we can pour into people. James McCoy, he says, my 3 young leaders I always admire. And the admiration was both ways because, to tell you, man, he poured into my sanctified swag anyway. Y'all saw what I looked like when I came into the church. I needed a James McCoy, and so shout out to brother James McCoy. And
he had us all dressing for a while.
Come on, man.
He was always putting out the tips.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
David Lee.
Clean.
You got to shine the shoes up, David Lee.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Yes, sir. You better want to know it, man. And so it really does take a village to raise a child. I'm grateful for you guys. Let me say this as well. We can't always think about who we are and where we're going, because if you are a leader and you look back and nobody's behind you.
Exactly.
Okay, but anyway, let's wrap it up.
People just happen to be going in the same direction you was in.
Some people are only in front because they faster.
Yep.
Let me stop. So our next podcast, gentlemen, we will pick back up talking about the leaders we become, because there's so many things that need to be looked at as we talk about that. I was talking. I better stop because I'm gonna take it to a whole nother 30 minutes or whatever. And I want to at least save these last few moments of the show to talk about another great accomplishment. It is available now, Brother Edie. Cultural Apologetics. You want to go ahead and talk a little bit about this awesome book you've got out?
Yes, thank you for the opportunity, Pastor McGyver. Cultural Apologetics is something that I studied while I was at Dallas and at Liberty. It really became meaningful to me because it really talks about how we relate the gospel, not just to people in terms of the intellectual, empirical understanding of the scriptures, but really relational, so that we can bring a person to a point of not just knowing what it is, but why we should. And when we talk, what the approach that I took really deals with really looking at the 3 points of faith, reason, and culture, and how these three, how they come together, how they converge, how we need to not necessarily reject, who we are and our upbringing and what we bring to the table. There's when we a lot of times when people come to faith, they feel like they have to, let go of everything that makes them them. And there's a very real way that we can point people to Christ through their experiences. And so we talk about meaning, purpose, and identity in the book, and really talking about how we can share this with people in a way that becomes deeply meaningful, in a way that deepens their faith, their walk with God, and both for people who are not current believers and also those who are present believers, how we can strengthen their discipleship walk with Him. So I'm really excited about it. It's something that I want to continue on past this book. This will be the first, but I really hope to share this with leaders and churches and just everyday believers who are looking to really make sense out of where they are in life and how they can take everything their experiences and help point them to a deeper walk with Him.
That's awesome. That's awesome. Congratulations as well, David, for real. Let's talk real quickly while we still have a few minutes about how and where they can get a copy of the book.
They can get it at Amazon right now. It's available on Amazon. You can do the QR code, or if you search Cultural Apologetics, it will pull up. I am working to have a symposium, hopefully later on this year, where I will be having some copies there for sale. If you're in the Springfield, Massachusetts area, we'll have some there. We'll do a signing and all of that. But right now, if you go on Amazon, it's available in digital. It's available on paperback and hard copy. And very soon, it will also be available on Audible, where you'll be able to listen to it narrated by yours truly. In Jesus' name.
Are you going to do it in your Barry White voice, or are you going to do it in your...
I'm going to do it in the Barry White voice.
Yes, sir. Again, ladies and gentlemen, saints and ain'ts, everybody, including Lottie Dottie, available now, Amazon.com or www.victoryu.org. Cultural Apologetics, written by the one and only David Eady, Dr. David Eady. Make sure you get your copy, get it now, and keep your ears and eyes open, ladies and gentlemen. Maso Young, oh, that's an older one. Okay, okay, all right. So let's get ready to shut it down, gentlemen. We'll start with you, Kelvin. Words of advice, wisdom, or anything you want to share and leave with the listening audience.
Well, I'll just say this. The topic is so poignant, fathers, sons, and the leaders we become. It's not just a biblical discussion.
Right.
It's really a life discussion that sometimes goes unstated, goes unaddressed. And I think that it's important that we as Christians, we as men, we as individuals ready ourselves for this conversation, because it's so needed. We are constantly talking about, we always talk about becoming leaders, being strong and all these other things. But to be truthful, if we're going to be good fathers, if we're going to be good leaders, if we're going to help our sons and daughters become who they're supposed to be, we have to be vulnerable in spaces like this so they can see really what's going on. I also like to add, I hope I'm not off in saying this.
No, sir.
If you're listening and you're in the Montgomery area,
Uh-huh.
love for you to join us in worship at Hope Hill Cathedral. We're a church that believes in strong faith and real growth and creating a space for people to become healed, developed, and walk fully in the person God has called them to be. And so if you're in the area, feel free to join us. We have service every second and fourth Sunday, 2522 Ellsmead Drive here in the city of Montgomery. And so I look forward to joining us.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Watch out there now. Watch out. Watch out. Watch out. David Eady, go ahead and give us your words of wisdom and also do your thing.
Man, I'm with Kelvin on there. I'm really enjoying this conversation. I feel like we're in somewhat of a renaissance period when it comes down to the relationship of fathers and sons. And I'm glad to be a part of this conversation. I want to say to every father out there, every son out there, don't give up. Sometimes as men, it can be difficult when it comes down to sharing our emotions and our feelings and, expressing in different type of ways that are very sensitive. But I believe that we're in a time where we are becoming more aware to the need of these things, where fathers can really step out and be heard. And Sheldon, you mentioned a little while ago about being seen. Hopefully this conversation allows some father, some son out there that's listening, or even, a mother, a sister, a daughter who's praying for that brother, that father, that son in their life, to know that there are spaces that are here, there are people that are here that are willing to step out and share the ups and the downs of our experiences, not to show you all of the great things and paint the rosy picture, but to show the mistakes that, sometimes, as men, we can feel so broken and down when we've let the people around us down. But you don't have to stay there. That even if you have, let, proverbially the people around you down, you don't have to stay there. You can pick yourself back up and be the father, be the son, be the brother, whoever that everyone around you believes that you can be. And that is why we're having this conversation, because embedded in the father son and conversation, embedded in us being who we are is leaders. We and if that is only, and I don't mean this limiting, but if that's just the people around you, that's huge. If that's your circle, that's huge. If you're making an impact in one person's life, that's huge. And so hopefully you'll join us back when we have this conversation again. And I'm excited to come back and keep exploring this in deeper thought and in conversation and discussion. And I'll piggyback on Dr. Jones over there. And if you're in the Springfield, Massachusetts area, come on over to Victory Point, 455 Island Pond Road, right in the city of Springfield, Massachusetts. And we believe in being a family-oriented church, and that means that everybody that comes in, you are a part of the family. So God bless y'all.
Yes, sir. Victory Point. Make some noise up in here on today. Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Hope Hill Cathedral. You already know what it is. Look here, man. Troy Smith, he almost threw the whole broadcast off, man.
Yo.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Yes, sir. So next episode, we'll throw the date out there to you guys. So just stay tuned. We'll get that to you. But we're definitely going to pick it up. Today we talked about fathers. We talked about sons. Next time we're going to talk about the leaders we become. Ladies and gentlemen, saints and ain'ts, everybody, including Lottie Dottie, may the good Lord continue to bless you, shine on you, all that good stuff. And remember, make sure you go over and get the book, Cultural Apologetics.
Yes, sir. Get the book.
Talk podcast from the Retro Philosophy Show.